Your destination is on the left.
I found a cabin that was built in 1850, and it had kind of been forgotten up on this hillside.
Here, look at the way that they connected these the beams. There's still some glass in the window, and oh, look at this! Look! Check this out. I don't know if you can see that. Let me get it closer. 1952. GM, whoever that is, or CM or GM, 1952. How cool is that? The style of construction, it was very small. You had the cooking area, and then you had the living and then sleeping area up above. This place has stayed together since 1850. 1850. Now that you guys have gotten a little overview of this cool cabin, we're gonna sit down with my man Steve here and learn a little bit more about him. Is that all right?
Sure.
All right. Are we rolling?
Rolling.
Scott.
Take one.
Scott did the honors of starting the camera this time.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you.
Normally I do, and then I sit in, but because of how precariously situated Steve and I are, you know, I let him do it.
Well, we like to live dangerous.
You know, the way I like to start things is just by introducing myself. I'm Corin.
Steve.
Great to meet you.
Great to meet you, Joe.
Not that we don't already know each other. I'll give you a little bit of background. Steve and I met because I bought this old 1963 kind of Pennsylvania style coal miner's house. It was all solid cedar, well built, right?
Well built. Brass screws and all. That was crazy.
But how did it smell when you came in there?
Ooh. Ooh. Like the Porta-John down there.
The Porta-John. The lady I bought it from, she was a animal rescue, you know, person, which was beautiful, wonderful lady. Mrs. Chip, if she's watching this, hello, Mrs. Chip. Marguerite Chip, she's lovely. She's been saying hello to me and stuff on social media sometimes.
Oh, wow,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
great.
It's been hilarious. So
wow.
So he came in, and well, the thing is, I wanted to do some really interesting stuff with it. That was a little crazy.
Yeah, and it turned out great too.
It turned out amazing. And so I was looking up on the internet for contractors, and lo and behold, I'm scrolling through and I see Steve McQueen Construction, and I'm like, and it's got 5-star rating on it, all these great write-ups. People are like, hooray, hooray, and I'm like, listen, you can't go through life with the name Steve McQueen and not be a badass at what you do.
Be legit.
So,
that's
yeah.
right. Too much sight.
And here's how honest he is. I had brought in a couple of other contractors, and they were telling me that this thing was going to cost, the renovation I wanted to do was going to cost anywhere from $60,000, $80,000. I mean, ridiculous amounts of money. And Mr. McQueen here said he can't really tell me how much it's going to cost until we're done with it. So allowed us to just run the finances organically, pay everybody what they deserve to be paid, open book policy.
Yeah, sure.
And we came in at about $24,000.
And that's still with 15% profit margin, which is, you know, that's customary with contractors.
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta make profit with your business.
Yeah.
So we were able to get to 15% and not rake you across the coals.
Exactly, brother. Exactly.
And I know your backside feels good for that.
Yeah,
one.
but you know the amazing thing about Steve was that the open book policy. In fact, he even was like, just put it on me to pay for certain things and all that. He just send me the bill and we would pay direct. So it wasn't like constantly tacking on all of the excess, you know, madness that goes along with. So that's why I trust this guy with my life. I trusted him with my house, and he made that house absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah,
I mean, gorgeous.
Yeah, drawing it up with the marker, though, it wasn't my ideas, but boy, I sure put the mechanics to those ideas.
Yes, you did.
There were some great ideas in there, buddy.
Yeah, and we pilfered a bunch of vintage wood from an old horse farm that they were going to tear down, which really came in handy.
Who was we? I never even hit those
That's
trips.
true. It was me and Cheese.
Yeah, don't you remember?
Cheese, if you're watching this, remember that
skated.
milkweed? Remember that milkweed?
I skated on every one.
That's
of
why I'm
them.
wearing these socks now, just in case I run into any more milkweed.
Yeah, that's right. You gotta watch that stuff for sure.
It's like being electrocuted. So what I'd like to find out is just a little bit more about yourself. I like to start with, where were you born?
Dayton, Ohio, Good Samaritan Hospital.
Dayton, Ohio.
I haven't been there since, I don't think. My grandfather and his brothers all moved up north to work in the factories, and then they migrated back to Tennessee, which is where they're from. And I guess because of the ties there, that my mother was there about the time I was born, so
Yeah.
that's where I wound up.
And
Coming
but
in.
you were just there for a short. Now,
Short
what
amount of
was your parents doing there at that time? Like, what was your mom and dad? Why were they in Ohio at that time specifically?
Now that I couldn't tell you. I have no idea what the story is behind them meeting and being there in Ohio. It's kind of funny because one of them my mother was from Tennessee, and my dad was from Texas. So what they were both doing in Ohio,
Lord only knows.
in 1973, who knows? There's probably some kind of cool movement going on
Right.
there or whatever. They're like, we want to be a part of that,
Well, what brought them back to Tennessee then?
Well, the Tennessee is just so beautiful.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful and it's so rich as far as farming and that kind of thing. And it's a different lifestyle in Tennessee.
Yeah.
A lot of low stress. And they have family here, So that brought them back to Tennessee. Now, I've went back and forth to Texas pretty much my whole life.
Yeah.
Some as a child, some as an adult, like the Houston area pretty well.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a little big, but I like Tennessee too.
Absolutely. So when you were, how old were you when you ended up back in Tennessee from Ohio? Baby?
Baby, probably
Okay.
2 years old or something like that.
And where did you guys end up in Tennessee? Where'd y'all land down here?
Lawrence County, which is where my family is from.
Uh-huh.
And a lot of my grandfather's side of the family, my grandmother, of course, she was a sharecropper, and her family kind of migrated from farm to farm.
Gotcha.
And her and my grandfather met because my grandfather's family helped establish the town there, Lawrenceburg.
Yeah.
My grandfather, or my great-great-great-grandfather, was a judge that served there. Same court, same bench as Davy Crockett.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah. So they go back a long ways. And, the vast majority of my family is from Lawrence County.
Okay. So on your mother's side.
On my mother's side.
And where's the vast majority of your father's side of the family from?
Now, Jacksonville, Florida.
Okay.
And I understand that there's some of them in Alabama.
Okay.
A lot of McQueens in Alabama.
So did your parents stay together long, or were they together?
I think they divorced when I was probably around 2.
Oh, okay, similar to my mom and dad
Sure.
split when I was 1.5 years old. So I don't even remember really them being
I
together.
vaguely remember a couple of small.
Yeah, I have a couple
episode.
of tiny little,
Right.
weird memories. Where'd your dad go off to at that point? Was he still around in your life at all, or?
No, he went to Texas, and he breezed through. I think maybe I was 8 or 9. I think I remember him coming through, and there were a couple of trips back and forth, and then I think in my teens, around 13 or 14, he wound up in Nashville.
Okay.
Building houses because he was a builder. So he wound up building a subdivision here in Nashville, and then he was able to be a little closer, and I connected with him then.
And did you get on the construction sites with him at that point?
Oh yeah. I hauled a lot of trash and picked up a lot of 2x4s.
Like I've done for you.
Oh, yeah. You gotta start somewhere, bro.
It's true. It's true.
Gotta start somewhere.
And at that time, what was your mom doing while you were growing up? What was she doing for a living?
Now my mother, she's very competent woman, so she done a lot of things. I think she worked for a survey crew at one point, and she worked for a highway crew, and she was a milker at a dairy barn. We lived on a little dairy farm. It was Nitticassesses. Of course, it's long since been gone, but she'd farmhand.
Gotcha. And but your grandmother had an interesting job, right? Was that your grandmother that was on the river?
Oh no, that was my mother later on.
Oh, that
in
was your
life.
mother.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
later
sorry.
On in life.
So what? Now that's an interesting job. What was that one there?
So she would cook on the river boats. Actually, the river boats that went here on the Cumberland.
Okay.
A lot of the barges, they're pushing a lot of material, and a lot of those guys got to stay on those boats
Right.
For a lengthy amount of time. So they have the onboard cook.
Right.
And she would just fatten them up. Have that good country cooking, buddy.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, me too.
And did your mom get remarried at all?
She did. She married James William Brazier. He's a great dude.
Yeah.
Great dude. Very strict, but a good man nonetheless. Of course, now he weaved in and out of both sides of the law.
Yes.
So I mean, he was, of course, it's not going to be long, and pot dealers are no longer going to be sought after as criminals.
Right.
But he was a pot dealer.
My kind of guy.
Yeah. Well, the pot dealing put a lot of clothes on my back and paid for a lot of school supplies. So
Right.
All I can be is grateful.
Right. I mean, that's
And to put your freedom at risk at that level to
Sure.
provide for your little ones, it says a lot for his character.
Yeah.
Stand up guy.
Absolutely. But he ran a pretty strong, pretty firm household, pretty strict.
Yeah. He was a man of few words, but he would do the looks. All he had to do was look at you, and you knew what that look meant.
Yeah. But and was who all was living? Was Deke with you at that time and all that?
Derek? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's three of us. My youngest brother Jimmy, and then Derek, which is the
Who you guys will meet eventually.
oh yeah, Deke's a freaking card.
He said he was going to write us an original song for Love America tour.
He's been in the studio, so I know he's working on something.
I love it.
I haven't heard from him very much, and he comes out every now and then and texts me,
Yeah.
and hey, what's up? And then he disappears again. So hopefully he's got some good stuff.
Now, did you spend most of your life being raised by your mom and dad? How long did they stay together? Your stepdad. How long did did they stay together?
Yeah, until I was in my teens. I think they divorced officially when I was 16, but now I left out on my own to explore the world. I was 14 and was going to turn 15, and I decided it was time for me to get out and to be in the world.
Yeah.
School was a waste of time for me. It seemed like institutionalized learning is just not my thing.
Not your bag of tricks.
Right. Since then, I've realized that you don't have to learn that way. There's a lot of ways you can learn.
Sure.
And actually, I love to learn and always have loved to learn. Just not in that institutionalized setting.
Yeah. Yeah, I dig it. Well, that's why we're kindred.
That's right.
So, when you set off on your own at that age, what was your first leap of faith? What did you do to survive? Where did you go? Where did you live?
Well, my dad, Terry, biological father, he was building condos in West Palm Beach, Florida.
Okay.
So I moved to West Palm Beach. Actually, I went to Texas and realized that he was in West Palm Beach. So I went from Texas, from Houston, at my grandmother's, to West Palm Beach to basically live with him. At that point, I did try school again for a short period of time in Jupiter, Florida. I think it was the high school Burt Reynolds went to or something.
Okay, gotcha.
I think he has a ranch there or something.
It's abandoned.
It's abandoned?
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
I've
it's
never been
abandoned.
there. And been down there since. But yeah. So I lived there, and he lived in a campground, him and his girlfriend. Small pop-up camper, small
Yeah.
pop-up camper. Wasn't really enough room for me, so I stayed in the campgrounds, woods, with a group of runaways there that had kind of posted up,
Yeah.
But they were smart because they're next to the campground.
Right.
They get the bathrooms, they
Yeah,
get the pool, they get the convenience store, and
Basically, it was like Caddyshack, when they go to the pool scene in Caddyshack, when all the
yeah. It was awesome. They had a picnic table they had drug up, and the palm leaves there are pretty good to construct Gilligan Island style housing out of.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. A lot like it is here though, humid and hot.
Where's Chadsky? Is he up there on there?
Injured. Knees are hurting.
Would you ask him if he could, if you could grab a cigarette from him? I don't have any on me. He's got them all.
Yeah, and all I got's the ones with chemicals.
Yeah. I don't go the chemical route.
I know, bro.
You know that.
I know.
But this is a man that I can smoke by while we're talking. We know each other that well.
Right. I was fixing to ask him about smoke.
I get a little minor harassment for my smoking tendencies, but we can get away with it here because you know what? This is America, and we're free to do this shit.
That's right.
So
and to each his own.
And to each his own. So you are more than welcome to have a cigarette, my friend.
Thank you, my bro. I'm gonna cut my phone off. Take a picture of my foot.
Take a picture of your foot first,
and then I'm gonna cut it off.
Send that to your wife. Say, look at this. So when you got there, you know, transitioning from your stepdad, knowing your stepdad and being under his rules and regulations, was there an adjustment period to working with your real dad at that point, at that age, coming into your young manhood, or was he a cool dude?
You know, my stepdad really taught me more about reading, not necessarily reading people, but watching people for a while before you get close. You know, he was kind of a standoffish character, and I adopted a lot of that from him.
Well, being in the old school 60s and 70s dope game, you got to be a little...
Yeah, you got to be a little, yeah.
I mean, being in the weed business back in the 60s in Tennessee and in the early 70s was a dangerous gig.
Sure.
Because the authorities down here didn't take too kindly to the grass smoking type.
I think that might be where the police beatdown was invented. Probably right here. It's probably where it was invented.
Not bad, sir.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, they probably invented it right in Lawrence County, most likely.
Wow. It wouldn't surprise me. But, you know, speaking of that, though, not to get too far off topic, but what did you learn from him in terms of business and how to take your own honest business on and all that? Did you learn anything from how he regulated a business that was in the gray area to applying that to the white area, so to speak?
Sure. And as a matter of fact, that is probably the only thing that allowed me to not only make it, but flourish. Because integrity is everything. And, you know, that's why, it's so important, you know, when I'm doing business with someone. I hate to say that it's like a dope deal, but your integrity has to stay the same.
Exactly.
And people are counting on that integrity. Of course, now in his business, if you didn't maintain that integrity, consequences were severe. You know, it could be very, very severe, depending on the situation.
Well, we'll put it this way: it wasn't a civil case.
Right. Right. And not that I would be afraid of that, but you know, that integrity just stuck. And not only that, the relentlessness, getting up every single morning and hustling every day. You know, you got to get up with that hustle. Now, me, I got lucky because I like to build.
Yeah.
And I've always liked to build.
And do you think you got that from your birth father?
I don't think so. I think my granddad probably turned me on to that.
Now, how's that? What
because
there?
You know, my granddad, when he retired from up north, he moved back to Lawrence County. He bought a couple of properties, rent houses, and a couple of little bars. And I always stayed with my granddad a bunch. I was on his, I was right beside him.
Yeah.
So he was teaching me how to use power tools and, work ethic. A lot of my work ethic came from granddad.
And your grandmother was real important too, right?
Oh, she's a rock.
Yeah.
And she was, I didn't know until recently, or I didn't realize till recently, that she is actually the rock that held that family together.
Yeah. And she's still...
Oh, absolutely.
With us.
Just left her house a couple hours ago.
Yeah. Yeah, Granny's kicking.
Yeah,
she ain't going anywhere anytime
soon. She's
soon.
kicking like Van Damme.
So long as there are biscuits to be made.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, she did teach me. When I went back home my first time after being out, that was the one big thing that I missed. So the first thing I did, I couldn't really get them right. I knew basically how to do them, But I said, Grandma, you're going to have to teach me how to make biscuits and gravy. I'm about to starve to death out here in the world.
Well, you know, the one thing I do find interesting is that that you and none of your brothers went into the family business.
Yeah, that is strange.
And I'm curious what it was for you personally. I'll probably talk to Deke secondarily about it, you know, on his with his own point of view on it. But for you personally, what was it that put a bad taste in your mouth about following the family game?
Well, I was put in a few questionable situations younger on, and maybe I think it was more. I think it was more of because of my son that I didn't, you know, early on I didn't want him to go through that very same scenario.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, sometimes you get shady characters. Not that my dad was a shady man, because he wasn't. I mean, the man had integrity and loads of it.
Yeah.
But the people you deal with, not so much.
Yeah.
You know, you can't account for everybody. So those shady characters like that, they're just not my lifestyle. You
Exactly.
know?
Exactly.
It's just not me. I didn't like it from the very beginning. You know, even when I was little.
Yeah.
But I understood it. You know, I understood the business. I understood why it had to be that way. And, you know, I mean, I was going to write a paper one time in school over, you know, what your parents done. And I asked him, you know, and of course he's a man of very few words, but I asked him exactly what it is he'd done for a living.
Yeah.
Of course I knew what he'd done for a living. But he was like, well, I'm a commodity broker.
A commodity broker.
So I took it as I researched commodity broker.
And it was parallel.
He was a commodity broker is exactly what he was, a commodity broker. So,
you know, but going in a totally different direction than that, it's such a positive move to make for your, you know, for your life at such a young age, at 14, 15, when you split off to go do your own thing. What was the main motivating factor in your life to make that dramatic change at such a young age?
Man, that is a good question. Perhaps I just seen the way other people lived and really wanted it. You know, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe something like that.
Yeah. And so you got down to Florida. You got into the construction game. How was the relationship with your father at that time? With your real father?
Yeah, it was more of a boss worker kind of relationship, and it was a little awkward because we'd never really known each other. You know, it was a little awkward, but I learned real quick how to bow out to experience and watch and soak stuff up, which is the way I done it with my granddad.
Gotcha.
Because my granddad, he's a little impatient. He was in his older years, you know.
He'd be barking at you.
Yeah, you better pay attention. Don't waste his time, you know.
Yeah.
So
listen to the bark. Don't get to the bite part.
That's right. That's right. Well, you know, they say, you know, he who seeks knowledge begins with humbleness.
That's true.
So it's that's a big hard one to choke down sometimes, you know.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it certainly is. Yeah, being humble is it's something you have to practice daily.
You damn right you do, bro. You damn right.
But that's why we get along.
That's right. That's right.
A couple humble pies right here.
That's right.
You got to eat a lot of crow in life to be as humble as I think we are.
Yeah. And crow must be healthy because I'm plenty healthy.
So what led you away from working with your real dad and then back to Tennessee?
You know, I really missed my family, and I've always been a real family-oriented person, and I really missed my family. So I've come back and paired up with my brother, and we started construction, you know, together.
You and Deke.
Me and Deke, yeah. Actually, we had started in junior high with my buddy Richie Clark, doing roofs, and we made a small roofing crew. And we went to work, and by the way, that roofing company's still going today.
Wow.
I talked to Rick the other day, and he's a super good guy, and the business is still going from the time I was in junior high to now.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. Roofing is the one job on a construction site I will not take.
You got to be about your business to be roofing.
Ooh.
But
especially in the Houston heat. They should only roof at nighttime. I don't know why they do it in the daytime. It's just the craziest thing ever.
Yeah, it's tough, man. That's a fact.
So I want to get into where you ended up living for a while in Tennessee when you met some folks who had a commune style place.
You know, that was a neat little couple years there. I had gotten out of the Army, just gotten out of basic training, and I had met this girl whose mother was a teacher for autistic children in Pulaski, Tennessee, right outside of Lawrenceburg. And she had taken a position on that commune, the farm, as a teacher for autistic children, just to help out. She had gotten a house there. She was, voted in to be able to live there. And her daughter and I were dating, and they had acquired this old house. It's an old hippie farmhouse,
right.
So it was piecemealed together, all kinds of stuff. But they really needed somebody like me that had some construction skills to get in there and maintain it. So I took a room in the attic, and I lived there in that big house. I think it was 21 rooms in that house or something.
Wow.
Wound up being the single female's house. It's called Kissing Tree. And I think Stephen Gaskin had lived in it at one point. Him and Ina May had started it or something, So I lived there and went to community college. And of course later our relationship, it didn't make it. And I decided that I would just, start over again.
Yeah.
So I walked down to the local farm store, and there was an advertisement on the Free Press, I think it's the name of the newspaper they have there, for
no such thing as free press anymore, is there?
That's a free press. That one was a free press. So Thomas Elliott was looking for someone to run the soy dairy, or work at the soy dairy rather. So I took the job, and I'd never made tofu or anything like that before, but Tom's a good teacher, and he had a great setup there.
Yeah.
So I worked doing, making tofu and soy milk and tempeh and soy yogurt, and I think he had a deal with Kroger's at the time for distribution, and so I just he kind of paved the way for me there. He helped me get a little cabin. What's the name? Canned Heat, maybe was the name of it. Just a little cabin out in the woods.
Yeah.
On the farm, so that I had a place to live,
Yeah.
And I continued to go to college there.
Yeah.
Worked for him, doing the soy dairy.
What were you going to college for at the time?
I think it was child psychology. I think.
Oh, okay.
Is what I was.
Yeah.
That was an interest of mine, and then I realized that, that was not a field that I could bear.
Right.
Being in, after I looked at the reality of what the profession became after the knowledge.
Right.
So I stuck with the building.
Yeah, smart move.
Yeah. I love it a lot better, man. I love these projects, man.
Yeah, no doubt.
Joe, I hadn't been able to sleep since I hadn't been on a project.
Oh, I bet, dude.
I toss and turn, and I dream about the cabin, and I'm thinking, oh, man, I can lift it up over here and, strap this over here, and, oh, yeah, you know me.
Well, that said, once you were off the commune, the kind of, I wouldn't want to call it necessarily a hippie commune, because it didn't seem like it was exceptionally hippie, but
there was a lot of hippie to it. A lot of very well educated people. And I learned a lot from there. And the biggest thing I learned from there was how to accept the differences in other people. And that's the rule. And I wasn't really keen to any of that. I was kind of stuck in my hillbilly-ish ways, you know. But when I got there and seen that there was, there was not really a need for that, and that the general populace that I was used to dealing with were just wrong.
Right.
I mean, they were just flat out wrong.
Right.
Because I met some really cool people there.
Yeah.
People ordinarily I would have, turned my nose up at and not even wanted to speak with, deal with, or what have you.
Yeah.
So it was really cool.
And when you left the commune, so to speak, the kibbutz, what'd you go to there? What happened after that?
Let's see. Um, After the farm, I moved to Gulf Shores, Alabama. It's a little island off the coast of Alabama. That was, it's a vacation town, so a lot of construction that goes on there, due to storms and that kind of stuff, and not a lot of workers. Everybody wants to go there and vacation.
Right.
Nobody wants to go there and work. So I was able to get in as a framing crew down there in Gulf Shores, and me and my brother and all my cousins, pretty good at building houses at that point. We just framed houses, on stilts, and we done a lot of piling houses there, and a lot of remodeling on places, that are, I guess, famous and probably still there, Papa Rocco's and the Barefoot and places like that.
Mm-hmm.
And we just built, along that island, and developed and sharpened our skills essentially.
Yeah, and as that went on, you had your son, my son and his son were buddies when they were younger before they moved over here to Tennessee and all that. So they used to pal around a lot. When you had your son, I know that changed a lot for you.
Yeah, that definitely changed you. Yeah, definitely changed you. Well, in the circumstances with my son, his mother really wanted to take her life in a different direction.
Yeah, we don't have to get into crazy detail on that, brother. I
Thank
promise. Yeah. No.
Yeah,
We'll leave that general.
Yeah. So the different direction it wasn't adequate. So I stepped up to the plate, and I pretty much dedicated all my time and effort into raising Diddle, aka Stephen.
And that's what took you out of Tennessee.
Exactly.
Because why? Why did you feel it was necessary to get you and your son out of Tennessee?
It's important for him to be it's just there's for instance, he went to school in the Woodlands. There were, I think I counted 21 different nationalities in his classroom.
Yeah.
And he needed to have, in my opinion, a more worldly outlook.
Yeah.
To be around other people and other opportunities and that kind of thing, and see how the world ticks.
Yeah.
The economy was much better in Houston than in Tennessee, even in Nashville.
Yeah.
Just recently, Nashville started, moving in a capacity to where, you can actually sustain a living. Someone like me who does bigger building, because at that point, I was into building bigger things.
Yeah.
So there has to be a lot of growth.
Yeah, you were doing restaurants and housing developments,
right,
and a lot of
complexes and so on and so forth. And Houston, they build big all the time.
Yep.
And it's nothing to get in there and build big building projects.
Yeah.
Well, like the fire marshal project,
Well, but what was it? What was it that was important to get him out of Tennessee? Besides having, being in a more diverse, environments and all that, what was it also that just was just critical to get him out of this place?
Well, now at that point, I think we were in the meth crisis.
Right.
And you know how these little towns and cities, and they were just taken over by that stuff. This place was no exception. And it got rough. As a matter of fact, it got very rough. And you know me, I can smell what's cooking, buddy. I can smell what's cooking. And I just, I couldn't see that being in his life for him to grow up and see that and expect that to be the norm.
Right.
Because that's not the way the rest of the world operates.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
I
mean, it's just not.
Yeah.
So he, I moved him out to Texas, and I shielded him. I'm not necessarily a helicopter parent, but I shielded him, and thank goodness I did.
Yeah, no kidding.
Because in some of those situations they get bad.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely. And we don't have to go into all those details.
But you
talked on the side about it, but
You know me.
It gets rough.
Yeah. You know me. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make it happen.
That's right.
And it doesn't matter what it is.
That's right. Well, and that brought us up. I see your wife's pulling up here. That's awesome.
Oh, and my diddle.
And Diddle's there. That's cool. That's
Little
awesome.
Diddle, can you believe I used to carry him in one arm like this?
No, I can't because he's just gigantic. Well, you know, because everybody's showing up here, so I do want to kind of clinch things up here. As far as life lessons go, and what you've learned over your life experience, and everything you've overcome, you know, what could you recommend or advise to other men or women who were in a similar situation as you, where you had a child in an environment that potentially over time was going to become an absolute disaster for the future? You know, what would you recommend them to do to overcome these kind of complicated, potentially life-threatening or life-altering environments?
Well, you know, Joe, it goes back to exactly what my granddad had told me, which is sometimes you just got to stomp the mud off your boots and keep walking. And, you know, it's hard, gut-wrenching sometimes, you know, because I'm a family-oriented guy. Everybody I love is here. Everything I've ever known or loved is in Tennessee, and I move 1,000 miles away with my kid.
Yeah.
It was important enough that I was willing to sacrifice those relationships to an extent. You know, of course, I still done social media.
Sure.
We still made our visits and that kind of thing. But the trick was not being lazy about it. You know, having conviction, knowing damn good and well that that's what had to be done, and not backing up on it. You know?
Yeah.
Insisting that it be good.
Yeah.
You know, because you create your own environment. And if you stay in an environment that's going to constantly pound at the gates, it's hard living. It's actually easier living just to start over.
Yep.
Stomp the mud off your boots. I met some really good people, you know. And it was a little tough at first. You know, it was a little tough there, and it was a little lonely there because I didn't really know that many people.
Well, that's how we met, buddy.
That's it. and I'm thinking, man, there's what, almost 8 million people in that city and the surrounding areas, and there's no friends here. You know, there's not a lot of good people, but you do meet the good people.
That's
you
right.
know, you do meet the good people. I met a lot of good ones in Houston.
Yeah.
Or especially out around the Woodlands and Conroe and Spring. And,
Yeah.
but you know, that's the biggest thing is you already know what the right thing to do is.
Yeah.
All you gotta do is do it. But I could have sit here and made up excuses, you know, of why not to do it. Oh, it's too far. Oh, it's too this. But basically just suck it up, buttercup, and make it happen.
That's
and
right.
you get on down the road with it. So, yeah, I took the $300, 3 baskets of clothes, and my Impala and moved to Houston. And I started over again, basically at, I guess I was 36 or 37.
36, 37, yeah.
Yeah, with my 5-year-old.
Wow.
Yeah, but that was a hustle.
It was a hustle.
That's a hustle, baby.
So I want to end it on that because that's a very important thing. You know, no matter how old you are, no matter what the circumstances that you're in, sometimes you got to just stomp the mud off your boots.
That's right.
Keep it moving. And don't be afraid to reinvent yourself, go into an environment where you don't know anybody, and get your hustle on and start life brand new.
That's right. And you know, after you're over the initial, I guess it's the culture shock of getting started, then it becomes refreshing.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, it's kind of like coming in when it's cold, and you get by the heater and you get that little chill, and you're like, oh, I didn't realize I was so cold. It's kind of the same thing. You know?
Exactly.
After you go through the initial brunt of it, then you're like, oh, wow, I didn't realize I was so down. And that place was beating me down. Holy cow, I feel great. I'm stepping.
And then we met.
Yeah, that's right. And then you're stepping.
And this is my brother for life. And we got some cool projects going on, which I'll share with you in a different video. But for now, here we are, 1850s cabin. And my man, Steve McQueen, thank you so much for sharing your story with us and your insight.
I'm glad you come down to visit us, Joe.
Yeah.
I'm very glad.
Love America Tour. We're going to go say goodbye to Steve here, and maybe I'll even get his wife on camera.
Good luck.